All right, welcome back to the Martin Take. On for today, we have not the National. I know we said in the end of our last episode that we were going to be doing the National next. However, Brendon and me talked about this, but failed to remember when we recorded the last episode that the National is actually coming out with a new album next week. And so we had an audible. We couldn't record because their album's not out yet, so we wanted to spend some time with that. So we've been wanting to do this artist that we have on for today for a while, and we thought it was a good time to do it. So the National will be our next artist, but on for today, we have the Scottish indie rock band Frightened Rabbit, and we're really excited about them. We've been talking about doing them for probably since we started. They've been on our band list for a while and really excited for them. So a little bit intro on Frightened Rabbit. As mentioned, they are the Scottish indie rock band from Skulkirk, if I'm saying that right, Scotland. Formed in 2003, the main two members of Frightened Rabbit were two brothers, Scott and Grant Hutchinson. And if you are a fan or any knowledge of Frightened Rabbit, you would know that Scott Hutchinson committed suicide in May of 2018. And since then, the band, they did a few concerts after that, but pretty much disbanded after them because he was their lead singer-songwriter type deal. And then they did a few band concerts in 2018, like later after the year, like 6 months after he passed away. And then some in 2019, officially, I think they folded it in early 2020, and so they are no longer a band. So, Brendon, before I kick it to style, did you have any more things you want to talk about on the intro for them?
Not too much. One thing to note, you said Skulkirk. Is that where they were born?
That was the band was formed. They were formed. They're not originally
I was
from
seeing Glasgow.
Yeah, well, they were raised in Glasgow. But now there's
okay.
four other members in the band. So basically, that's where they formed. I did not do a whole lot of reading on exactly why they were formed there, but that's just what Wikipedia tells me.
Okay. Yep. I have done even less research, so I'll go with that. But yeah, let's move into style.
Yeah,
then.
great. Style's an interesting one. So basically, there are so many indie rock bands out there, and so that's not like a unique thing about them. What makes them unique is that they're a Scottish indie rock band. And there aren't that many indie rock bands that are like Frightened Rabbit. I do have two. I'm sure we've already talked about them. They're some of my other two favorite bands. It's Gary Cinnamon and Jamie Webster. And they're not exactly the same. You know, Jamie Webster's a little bit more indie, a little less rock, more alternative. Jerry Cinnamon is a little bit different too. So they're not a good comparison, but they would kind of fall in that line of indie alt rock type. And so yeah, I would say they aren't that unique of a band besides that they're a Scottish band because there's too many. Not actually, I love indie rock bands, so there's not enough, but there is a lot out there that doesn't make them that unique. But
yeah, they do. I don't know. I've always thought of them as fairly unique as far as sound. Because they definitely fit into that category, the indie rock category, with a ton of other bands. But and I even compared to the two artists you just mentioned, they definitely seem different than that. Whereas those two artists also feel more like I don't know, just like the singer, like the front person is.
Well, that's what it is.
Has more of the whole band feel. Whereas this feels, even though you have the lead singer of Scott Hutchins, it feels like more of a band and everything.
And that's what it is. So, basically, to answer your question, the why bands are like that is because when you get a band who gets mainstream, and not Frightened Rabbit wasn't like the biggest band out there, but they were big enough to people knew about them. And so when you get bands that big, they are that big because they have uniqueness, and that uniqueness is their voice and their lyrics and the songs that they write. So basically, where they differ, as always, what we say is just their sound, and Scott Hutchinson's voice just kind of brings it out. And his voice is pretty unique, and there's not many voices out there like that, which helps drive that. All right, so let's kick it over to albums here, and I have them ranked. I will admit I'm not as familiar with most of their albums. Painting of a Panic Attack, their latest album, is the one I've been most familiar with, and so I don't have a lot on them. I do have them ranked based on the songs that I ranked in my like list. So, Brendon, I will go first because I think it's my episode to go first here. I'm going to go through and rank them, and then you go and rank yours, and we can talk a little bit about them. So, as mentioned, at number 1, I have Painting of a Panic Attack from 2016. It's my favorite album by them. It's a lot of good songs from that. At number 2, I have The Winter of Mixed Drinks. Great album. Really enjoyed that one. It was from 2010. Number 3, The Midnight Organ Fight. Good one from 2008. At 4, Pedestrian Verse from 2013. And then the last I have their first album, Sing the Grays from 2006. It was fine.
Yep.
Didn't love it. Good album. But yeah, that's where I have mine at.
Okay. Yep. Not a slightly different order, but high and lows are the same. So yeah, I put Sing the Grays at the bottom. Okay. Even though it was the first album, I just didn't feel like it was quite as good. And then I have Painting of a Panic Attack at number 1. And then 2, Pedestrian Verse, which Pain of a Panic Attack, like you, it was the one I'm most familiar with. It's one I played the most. And I've been familiar with Pedestrian Verse for quite a while, but wouldn't have really played the whole album that often. But I do like that one. And then 3, Midnight Organ Fight, pretty solid. And then I put The Winter of Mixed Drinks at number 4 there.
We had Winter of Mixed Drinks and Pedestrian Verse switched. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Pretty much. Pain of a Panic Attack was clearly the top for me, and for you, and Sing the Grays was both clearly the bottom, and then the middle there was a little more interchangeable.
Can I offer some interesting insight I just thought of?
Certainly.
So basically, you know how we talked quite a bit about before on different artists that it's usually the first album or two that we really like, and they go on their own path to albums that are more mainstream, more albums that we typically don't like, and then it gets more popular, and we're like, we don't really like the later albums, we like the first albums. Frightened Rabbit's the opposite, and we are those people who they appeal to when they came out with later stuff.
I did think about
Isn't that interesting? Because we're those people now.
Yeah. I would, well, I wouldn't feel bad. I like what I like. That's fine. Yeah. Painting of a Panic Attack is...
It's a great album.
It's a great album. I would definitely say it's... I don't know if that's focused at mainstream, but
it's not. It's just
more mainstream sounding songs and stuff. It's a little more keyed up and everything, which I like. But I think if they were, doing that trend, like that trajectory that we often talk about of just kind of developing some of her time, I think if they had done like a smaller step up from Pedestrian Verse, and maybe only had like a couple songs that had more of the feel of Painting of a Panic Attack, I think that album could still have been really good while, sounding a little more like the rest of their stuff. I think, to me, Pedestrian Verse was pretty good and wasn't far away from being what I really enjoy without being, I think Painting of a Panic Attack has a similar sound a lot of the way through it. Or most of the way through it, though the energy level does change song to song, so it's not only super upbeat, like high level songs.
It's definitely not, and I just thought that insight was kind of interesting because so often we talk about we love the first 2 albums, but then the artist just went a different direction. We just kind of lost interest, and for this, it's the exact opposite, where they started out in a direction and they went more. I don't know what the vibe they went for more of. It's more like upbeat and fun song, not because they're I mean, Painting by Panic Attack is kind of a depressing album at some points too. So I don't know if it's one of those things where it's I don't know. I don't know what the vibe is, but basically their albums, their later stuff is more appealing to me. So it's interesting insight.
Yeah, and interesting for at least my order. There's usually a pretty clear progression of year to year. Mine are fairly mixed up. So it's interesting to see how it works out.
Moving on from albums, unless you had anything else you wanted to say more there.
Nope, go for it.
So how many songs are we going to have line up in our top 5? I have a number. I think we're going to have 3 that are within our top 5. They don't have to be exactly lined up. I think we're going to have 3 of the same songs on our top 5. How many do you think we're going to have?
I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. Okay. I'm gonna go with 3 as well. If Painting of a Panic Attack wouldn't be your top album, I'd be a little more interested to see what avenue you went down as far as what you liked.
It is going to be interesting.
I think we're going to have a similar preference.
I think we will. My top 1 was a surprise one that I came up with yesterday, so we'll see how it goes. But without further ado, we will kick it over to our top 5. So I'm going to go first. And at number 5, this one was a hard one because my number 6 song was so close to making it. I think I love that 5 spot because the number 5, because it's like you that song you have at number 6 is always so close. Like, should I put it at 5? I shouldn't. I need to do this song. So at number 5, without further ado, I have Things from the album The Winter of Mixed Drinks 2010.
Here's the evidence, human existence, to them boxes, and I cannot find a name for them. They hardly show that I have lived. And the dust
That is a good one. Not on my top 5.
Okay.
It's on my greater liked list, or top 15. I'll just say this now. My top 15 is not very. Sometimes it's a little more ranked. This time it is not very. Only my top 5 is really.
Mine
ranked.
are always ranked. That's just who I am.
I know.
Anyways, so the opening of this song has an electric guitar that just goes in. So the gain, if you don't know anything about electric guitars, the gain is one of the things you can adjust, and it has kind of like that amplification sound. I don't know how to describe it. Look up, if you need to look it up, look up the gain on electric guitar, and they'll explain what I'm talking about here, or just listen to the song and you'll know what I'm saying. But anyways, electric guitar has the gain turned up really, really high and has a really great start to what feels like a really good rock song. Like a lot of rock songs will have high gain, and it really feels like it has that vibe. But then it becomes a lot more of a chiller song later on, and the song just kind of vibes the whole way through, and it's really one that I enjoy. I didn't discover this song until when I was doing this podcast, because I didn't have this album in my library until we did this. So yeah, really excited for the future of the song because I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. I was definitely considering it, but ultimately did not put it on.
All right, so what do you have at your number 5?
All right, so for me, I have A Lick of Paint from Painting of a Panic Attack.
I know you're listening, I know you're there. I'll cut the dick, I pull up a chair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Lick of Paint.
Lick of Paint. So while you look for that song,
I need to go find it. Hold on. Oh, I have it at 28. I have it at number 28.
Yeah, this album is very good. I'll preface with that. I like a lot of stuff from this album. I've been playing this album quite a lot in the last couple years, I would say, while having not gone too much down the rest of their music. But this song in particular, it just sounds really good. I like the different ideas and stuff that Fright Rabbit puts in their music. There's a lot of, especially with this album, like you had mentioned earlier, there's a lot of like pain and different confliction of feeling of like people's feelings and stuff like that. But there's an interesting line in here saying, "All we need is a lick of paint." As in, we just need a bit of a touch-up, which is a light way of saying kind of the greater pain that's talked about in the song and stuff, and the greater feel of it. But what's really cool about the song is at a minute 50, the lyrics end, and then there's another like minute and a half of just instruments, band instruments going on. And I think that sounds really cool, and like just really enjoyed that like second part of the song, and never really think about it when I'm listening that it's like over already, but then there's just that whole like basically second half that's just music that really just makes it all settle in.
Yeah. No, it's a good song. It definitely has, I think the whole, as we know, we already mentioned, but Painting of a Panic Attack, that album just kind of has that depression vibe. And I don't know, this is just my assumption, I don't know if that, with what Scott Hutchinson was sort of like going through mentally, to commit suicide, you have to be at a really crazy place. And I think for him, I think some of that pain and stuff kind of came out in this album, because I think a lot of what he was feeling was going through that. And I think this song here is him just kind of crying out from that and kind of what he felt from that.
Yeah, and I think the whole subject of suicide is a really touchy area, but I think it can be surprising how small, how you would think people have to be in a radical state of mind or something, but I think that can really sneak up on a person over time. And I think that some of those ideas are definitely clear in the type of stuff that is sung about in this album, that there's definitely a lot of raw emotion that comes through, that whether it was leading anywhere or not, we don't know, but definitely shows up.
Cool. Well, moving on to my number 4, and this song is not going to be from Painting of a Panic Attack. This song is Good Arms versus Bad Arms from the album The Midnight Organ Fight.
Good arms versus bad arms, or when hands down. They are built to hold unfitly cars far they go round.
Great song. I really enjoy this one. The acoustic guitar at the beginning and throughout the song has a really nice vibe. Has a really nice sound, more of an indie vibe instead of more of a rock vibe, because most of their songs have that rock vibe. This one has more of an indie vibe to it, and it's a really good song. I love this. We're going to talk about this quite a bit more, but their Scottish sound and Scott's voice in this song, it's so good. And I don't know, if like I already talked about Gary Cinnamon and Jamie Webster. I love the Scottish vibes. Brendon, you and me were in Scotland in 2017, 6 years, actually almost exactly 6 years ago. Those memories just came up. And I just remember talking. We came out at the airport in Glasgow, I think it was, and we were just talking to the Scottish guy, and it was like, it was such a great vibe. And so I think some of these songs just kind of bring me back to that time. I loved visiting Scotland. It was just a really cool song, and it's a good one. So yeah, good arms versus bad arms. So where did you have that one at?
I had to go look that one up quick.
My gosh,
did not even have that on my liked list.
It's good. Oh, dude, this is a song that I've been listening to for a while.
Yeah, my like list was maybe like half their music or something.
I don't think we're gonna have three that line up then, because I went with the vibe that I'm going is not the vibe that you're going with. We're gonna have like one or two.
Okay, we'll find out. But yeah, no, it's a they're all good songs. But no.
Yeah, they are all good songs. Like I know the I said I had your song "The Lick of Pain" at 28. Like it's a good one. I had 48 songs ranked, and that one was 28.
Yep.
All right, what do you have at number 4?
All right, for my number 4, I have the Modern Leper from the Midnight Organ Fight.
Well, I crippled your heart 100 times and still can't work out why. You see, I've got this disease, I can't shoot.
Yeah, I had that at 15. That's a
15?
great
Oh, wow.
song. It's a great song.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that
I
one
really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I thought that one could even go on higher for you, but yes, it'll be interesting. But yeah, this is an excellent song. I actually like just the beginning opener. I don't love a whole lot. Like it's not bad, but it's not quite my thing. But then as soon as the song really starts in, like it's just an amazing song the whole way through. One of the lines that sticks out is at one point he sings, "Well, I am ill, but I'm not dead, and I don't know which of those I prefer." And that gets more to just like some of these darker things that are talked about throughout his music. Well, I don't know that he necessarily wrote everything, but like just with the whole band. And yeah, you really get kind of like an intimate feel and like with their music and with some like we were saying, the pain and stuff that comes through. But at the same time, the energy on this song is really good. It has a really good flow. And I was trying to, I mean, maybe you can speak to this a little bit too, but if you remember this song, but this song, and I mean, a lot of their songs too have a rougher edge to them. And you were talking about that with like the gain being turned up on the guitar and stuff and that previous one you had mentioned. And so there's a roughness to this song in particular, while it not being, I wouldn't say it's like so percussion forward or something.
Well, I think it's a lot the voice and the lyrics. I know this song, and the opening's not great, but it's made to be a rough listen to song. It kind of gives you that more of the feel. Because I think the lyrics he's going through in that, it kind of gives that more of that edge. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and not only does the music add that, but that like complements what's already being sung with his voice and the lyrics that are actually being said.
And that's like almost like a 3D effect when it comes to music, because oftentimes you have the way the song is done. You have the instruments and you have the music. That's a 2D thing, right? That's like the flat things. And then you have the third dimension of being how the song is, if that makes sense. Like exactly what you're talking about. So anyone who listens needs to listen to the song and then talk about how that rough is. And so that kind of gives the song even more depth into what they're feeling and what the songwriter's actually going through, which is a very interesting concept.
Yeah, I like the way you explain that. I think that, it does a good way of explaining it without actually having like listening to their music or something. So
When I think a lot of their songs, and we talked about this a little bit already, but that I'm going to use that 3D effect analogy more often throughout this episode, because I think that kind of gives a good insight to how their how their music is, and I think it's really important with what they wrote.
Yeah, it like adds like a texture or something. Like it adds,
a texture. Yeah,
like
or a
adds
3D
texture,
effect. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Texture to a picture or something, or whatever that gets you. Yeah, your 3D.
Or
thing,
even just a 2D thing to a 3D thing. Anyways, enough with that.
Yeah.
I think that was great. Cool. No, moving on to my number 3, and we're getting back to Painting of a Panic Attack here, and this is one of the songs I think you're going to have on your list. So I want to hear where you have it at. At number 3, I have Get Out from Painting of a Panic Attack 2016.
In the arch is a church between her thumb and her forefinger. I'm a worshiper, a zealot king.
At number 3, I have Get Out.
Let's go.
So,
Great job
yes.
out of
Well
us. I am
played.
excited. Awesome. Well, we were on the same page, so we're going to go back to back on this one, which is awesome. So there's a chance that we do have a 3 lined up. We're off to the right start.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has always been one of my favorite songs. We've talked about the song over the years. I want you to overlay this part, but at exactly 1 minute, well, actually started at 59 seconds, so I can build a little bit. At exactly 1 minute, it has the lyrics, "Get out of my heart, she won't, she won't." So basically the song kind of starts a little bit slow up into that point, and then it has those lyrics, and then it just goes hard from there and just really builds. Great vibe. Love this song. Can't get enough of it. One of my favorites, but it comes at number 3.
Get out of my heart, she won't. Get out of my heart, she won't.
Yep. Same thing for me. I think this song is a little more standard as far as it's not so weird as some other stuff is as far as the different things that are done to it. But yeah, that line, "Get out of my heart," like it's an impactful line. I think even like throughout the rest of the song, all the different verse sections have like a verse complexity or like a sound complexity to hearing them, whether you're really listening to the words or not. I was realizing that, like re-listening to it, trying to type up my thoughts. I'm like, there's just something about like the way it's sung, and which again, I noticed the last couple artists, I don't think we've quite as much talked about the main vocalist, but like this band, like Hutchins' voice is like adds all the level to it that really makes it shine. But the complexity I was noticing and just the overall sound with the way he's singing and the lyrics that are being sung just really stood out to me too.
That is actually an interesting thing, because we, in our the last 4 episodes, we really haven't talked about the lead singer having that much effect on why we love the artist so much. But because before, I think the last 10 episodes before that, I think every episode we're like, oh my goodness, like the lead singer makes all this stuff, which is true. I think, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, any artist that's mainstream gotten big because they're a little bit unique, and that usually comes from their voice. And what I said about the this band, Frightened Rabbit, is because they're a Scottish band, which gives them uniqueness and gives them that voice, which is exactly what you're just talking about, which makes them so good.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought about before this episode is with the last couple, I was like, oh, like maybe in the beginning we just noticed that more, and it's just became a little more normal as we've done more episodes like this. But it was clearly when I was prepping for this one, I'm like, well, I know I'm going to be talking about his voice. And yeah, because his voice really stands out in this band, and not that the other bands have all been great, obviously, but yeah, just a little extra here. So, I guess we'll move on to your number 2 then.
At my number 2, this is also a song I think you're going to have at your number 1 or 2. I hope you would. I think we've talked about this one the most, but I Wish I Was Sober from the album Painting of a Panic Attack in 2016.
Fall free to the blizzard head, wrap my hand around the glass again. We all thought that I might change as I got older. Fell down and nothing bled.
Yes, that is a very good song. Not my number 2, so I'll let you do the math on that.
Okay, do the math on that. You know where it's going. So far we're 2 for 2. If you'd have asked me 3 weeks ago what my number 1 song was by Frightened Rabbit, I would have told you this song. I would have. I've been like, number 1 song, oh, I Wish I Was Sober. That's been their number 1 song for forever. But it comes in at number 2, and I'm going to talk about more when I get to my number 1. But this has always been my favorite song by them, and it only recently changed. The song is just really consistent in the feel throughout the song, and it's always a good listen to. And we'll talk a little bit. I'll kind of cut to it. I'll save a little bit what I have on the thoughts on like the writing of the song when we talk about it with you. but just a phenomenal song.
Shoot down the gateway drug, open the gates, and came the flood. It comes like a blush of love, it hits me without warning. Long nights of getting
So without further ado, what do you have at number 2? That's a good line. I like that. Let's go.
That's a good sound. So this song, I considered putting this at number 1. I kind of threw this one all over my list, but it just came up in my listing, one of those songs. I knew the song pretty well, but it just kept rising up my list as I prepared. But that is Nitrous Gas from Pedestrian Verse.
Shut down the gospel singers and turn up the old heartbreakers. I'm dying to tell you that I'm dying.
Dang. Dude, that is a phenomenal song. I have a number 8. It's
Okay.
not my number 1 song.
Yep.
But it's funny you mention that because I was dang close to putting it in my top 5. That is a great song.
Yeah, it was when I started prepping. All I was doing is putting "Painting of a Panic Attack" song. Well, wasn't putting no on, but I was just like, I know I like all of these already. But I was like, I hope there's some other standouts, and this is a definite standout. So it's a real hitch in the feels song as far as just the feel of the song. It's a bit more simple, but you have, like I've been talking about the whole time, Hutchins' voice. It has real emotion coming through with singing, and this was kind of funny. So so there's the line in the chorus, if happiness won't come to me, hand me the nitrous gas. And I kind of like felt like I understood the idea that was getting behind, but didn't think about it too far. But in an actual interview, so nitrous gas is also known as laughing gas. That's used as an anesthetic for medical procedures and stuff. Yep. But it can also have a euphoric effect. So basically, what he was saying in an interview is he was just making, and I think this wasn't necessarily written by him, but however they did it, like whoever was writing
This
it.
was actually written by Al John.
Yeah. Yep. So like the idea is it was kind of meant to be like a super sad and depressing song with this kind of hook in in the chorus of, if I can't find happiness, well, I guess I'll just take a synthetic version of that. And that was kind of like just like a cruel practical whatever, like kind of mockery of if depression and all of that, I guess. But I just thought it was interesting, and yes, the song sounds amazing.
Happiness won't come to me, hand me the nitrous gas. You can keep all of your oxygen, hand me the nitrous gas.
It's a great song. It's funny. I was actually listening. I had before we recorded this podcast, I got home this afternoon, and I just put all of their songs on shuffle when I was cooking. And I was like, it came up again, and I was like, dude, did I make a wrong decision? Should this have made my top 5? Should I replace it with things? I'm like, it's not. I think the reason I didn't put it on my top 5, it's a little bit too slow and a little bit too depressing. It's not maybe depressing. It's just a little bit too slow and too simple. I'm more of an upbeat energy type of person, and so I love higher energy songs. But it is wonderful. It's a great song. Happy that you have it your number 2.
Yeah, and I think it does a good thing for me where I always like to have at least a slower song in my top 5 if there's one that stands out, and this one did a really good job of that. So now if I've done my math correct, we will not have 3.
Correct. We're gonna have 2. So It was Get Out and then I Wish I Was Sober, which obviously you have your number 1. But without further ado, kicking into my number 1. So this was a surprise for me.
Yeah, I'm curious about this.
Do you have a guess? You're not going to guess it, actually. Now that what do you think I'm actually going to be? It's not from Painting of a Panic Attack.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through my 15 here. Yeah,
no,
I don't.
Guess it.
I don't
okay,
know.
I'm gonna give you a guess here.
Okay.
It's the Midnight Organ Fight.
Okay. The only one I have up that high from that album is Keep Yourself Warm.
Okay, that's a good song. But no.
Floating in the Froth, is it?
Ooh, wow. Yeah, I'll stop having you guessing because you're not going to get it.
Okay.
It is Old Fashioned from the album The Midnight Fight 2008, my number 1 song.
Oh, turn off the TV, it's killing us, we never speak. There's a radio in the corner. It's dying to make us see.
So this song is just great. I have described it as a more of a fun, high energy song, and
as soon as you like, took me a second, but as soon as you said that, that started playing in my head. So
yep.
definitely
old
feel there with you. Yep.
So basically, if you look at not all of their songs, I mean, they have 5 albums. Not all of their albums are super depressing, or all the songs are super depressing. This one's actually really just not high energy, but it's more fun and more light. Because I feel like a lot of their songs are talking about depression, or like the last one we just talked about, the nitrous gas. Like it's like just let me feel something. And I think this one is actually like more of the opposite. Like, let's go live life. So basically, in this song, Old Fashioned, is basically like getting back to old times and having fun. And the lines like. It starts off with, let's turn off the TV because it's killing us. And then they're like, let's go do things old-fashioned. Like, let's go dancing or whatever. Like, do it like they did it in 1943, where they'd go out and, you'd have parties or whatever. And it's more of just an upbeat, fun song. And it puts you in a good mood. You're like, maybe I should go do this. Maybe I should go do that. I don't know. And it's really one that I just really enjoyed. I maybe should have put it at number 2. For me, I've been listening to I Wish I Was Sober for so long that I'm like, you know what? This is a really good song. And for right now, we do these things at what's our favorite, that's our top 5 right now. Old Fashioned is my favorite song by them right now. I Wish I Was Sober has been my favorite, so take it as you want it, but that's my number 1.
If I get old fashioned, to get old fashioned with me.
That's a good one. I don't even have it on my grader list, but it's catchy enough that like I said, it was in my head as soon as you mentioned it. So that's a good one.
Well, I have zero idea. That was a joke, whichever your number 1. But kick it to your number 1 because we know what it is.
All right, number 1, I Wish I Was Sober from Painting of a Panic Attack. So I don't have a ton to say on this other than, like you kind of mentioned, it's a great song, great flow, still has some like impact and stuff to it. Like it has a great sound. Hutchins' voice again. I'll keep talking about that. It's the last time, I promise, because we're out of songs. But there's some lines that I like. That's sound really go really well with the music and stuff. One's like a blush of love. It hits me without warning, and shove a rag in my mouth and let it smolder. Like, just very impactful sounding and just roll through the music and just really enjoyed. And clearly. It's this song I've listened to a million times, but it's still a great song. And I really had to put this one at number 1 pretty much. So
Come and shake me till I'm dry. I wish that I was sober.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like I said, maybe I should have put it at my number 1 because it has been my number 1. But cool, let's kick it to our 6 through 15. But before we do that, I'm really curious. Let's just talk about our number 6 songs. I feel like that is such an important listing, number 6. So like, we our lists are our top 5 lists, like what's our favorite songs. But I really struggle every single episode at what to put at number 6. And so often, and I'm sure you can agree with this, Brendon, that we will switch our 5 and 6 songs almost at least once.
A few too many times.
Yeah, a few too many times. And it's because it's such a hard place. Like it is the cut. And if you look at anything in life, like what makes the cut and what doesn't, some things is pretty black and white, some things are pretty gray. This is so gray. There's no line there, and I love that because I think that there's so much power in that. And so I just wanted to hear what your number 6 song was, and then we can go down through the list because I think we should talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, can you go ahead with yours first?
Yeah. My number 6 song was Blood Under the Bridge, and that was from the album, Painting of a Panic Attack. Great song. And I was like, you know what? Do I really want 3 of those songs? It was so close. I thought Things Right Now spoke a little bit more to me than Blood Underneath the Bridge. Blood Under the Bridge, but it's a great, great song, and just missed the cut. And I think that's so powerful. It's like, this is the line, but that line is a hard line, but there's just so much gray between what goes between 5 and 6, and I just love that hard cut. So that's what I have at number 6.
Interesting. So like I mentioned just a little bit ago, I have Keep Yourself Warm at number 6. A interesting song, to say the least. I don't know if you remember it.
I have it at 26,
offhand. Yeah. But, okay. Yeah, I didn't think I could put it on my top 5, but I'm like, I'll just slot in here. And the next, actually convenient that you mentioned up bringing him up, because I was like, it's a song talking about love, just not gonna fill you, and kind of the way he talks about it and the rawness of it is interesting to say the least, but it's a really cool sounding song. So yeah, I that was an interesting one, because it was a time I actually knew it wasn't going to make my top 5, but I was like, I'll just put it at number 6 because I know I won't talk about it. Well, now I'm talking about it, but I thought it was an interesting song.
Cool. I just thought that was kind of a cool segment, and we haven't done that before, but just very interested. But yeah, I'm gonna go down and read my 6 through 15 list here, and then we'll go over to yours. Yeah. So number 6, obviously, a Blood Under the Bridge. Number 7, Heads Roll Off, good song. Mm-hmm. Number 8, Nitrous Gas, which we talked about. 9, Waking Up Hurting, good one. 10, The Loneliness and the Scream, also another good one. 11, Break. 12, My Backward Walk. That's a good one. I'm sure you remember that one. That's a good one. My Backward Walk. That's a good one. 13, Backyard Skulls, good one. 14, Still Want to Be Here. And 15, which you had on your list, The Modern Leper.
Okay. I don't think we overlapped too much. I did just have to. Okay. I was looking at my list here, and on my sheet of 15, I had 18, so I had to quickly delete the bottom ones. And nice. I just deleted a Break that was at 16. So going to number 6, I have Keep Yourself Warm, like I talked about. Then State Hospital, like that one. Okay. Was a good one. And these are getting cut off. Still Want to Be, what is that? Still Want to Be Here.
Yeah, I had that one.
Woke Up Hurting, Floating in the Fourth, because that's what that is. Things, Living in Color, Death Dream, Die Like a Rich Boy. I think that's just a fascinating song. And The Woodpile at number 15.
So we only had 3 songs, or 2. You had Things, which I had number 5. You had that in your space there, but we only had 2 that lined up, which is really interesting.
Yeah, kind of surprising.
Yeah, it is surprising. So can you keep me move on here? The new segment we've added in the last couple of episodes, Where Do You Listen to This Artist? This is probably my favorite segment we've added to the podcast. And Where Do You Listen to Frightened Rabbit? I don't know if you're prepared for this or not, so I can go first.
I'll go first because I'm prepared, but I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
This one's I just listen to them.
Yeah, and I think for me too, so I'll just go what I have here. I listen to Frightened Rabbit usually in the evenings, year-round, when I'm cooking food. Here's why. I'm sure you're dying to know. Basically, here's why. So when I'm cooking food, it's usually not like I'm like super involved. It's like I'm doing stuff and there's cooking. It's not like you have to be like every second solely focused on it like you're at your job or whatever. But it's like you're cooking, you can usually have your mind going other places and focusing on other things. And Frightened Rabbit's an artist where I do like to listen to when I like focus on the music when it's listening. It's not like a background music. I'm like, I don't really care what's playing. I want to focus on it. So the reason I like listening to him in the evenings when I'm cooking year round is because they have that voice and that vibe that I really enjoy. And so that is when I listen to them, because if I look back and I go back, hey, when was I listening to this artist? It literally was in the evenings when I get home from work and I'm cooking. So that's what I do.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Where do you listen to Frightened Rabbit? I always love this segment because I'm so structured in my life that I'm like, this is when I listen to this and that's when I listen to that. But you're not that.
Yeah, the at the top here, that was my answer. I just listen to them. I don't have like usually
I see. Okay.
Yeah, usually I could have an idea of like, oh, I tend to do it here or this time of year. I mean, they're definitely fall, winter more, but beyond that, there's nothing really that I could say this is what I do or this is the type of thing I'm doing when I'm listening to them. It's just they'll come into my rotation every now and then, and they're on a couple good playlists, so I definitely hear them pretty frequently. But yeah.
Cool. Well, wrapping this episode up, we have one more question to ask. Would you go to their concert? I think it's an obvious yes from both of us. Just absolutely love the band, but would you just not go to their concert?
I would if they
still existed.
If they still existed and could do that. So yeah.
Yeah. So wrapping up takeaways here, I'll go first and then you can go and I'll kind of wrap up the episode here. But yeah, the Frightened Rabbit is just one of those bands that is all-time great in my opinion, and it's just so sad. My heart kind of just breaks over. Suicide always kind of breaks my heart because it's just like those people weren't feeling the like love from something that kind of drove them that. I think that just there's just so much into that, and I think that just kind of breaks my heart. So whenever I think about Frightened Rabbit, it almost makes it a little bit depressed, and then that depression when I'm listening to their music, all of a sudden it almost puts me in a bad mood. So that's why I talked about Old Fashioned as my number one song, because so often Frightened Rabbit, it's just a little bit of a more depressing vibe, and I'm just like, dude, that's not, as a Christian, that's not what what life's about. Like we're supposed to be alive in the Lord, and so to me, I get a little bit depressed listening to Frightened Rabbit, so I kind of can't go too much into them. But yeah, just love the band, Scottish vibes. I love the sound. We already talked about it, and their voice just so good. So I just love Scott's voice, and so yeah, just absolutely love the band, and we'll continue to listen to them in the future.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up the suicide stuff again, and especially how that relates to their music.
Yeah,
I definitely thought about or think about that a lot, and I remember it wasn't that many. Like I didn't hear about it, in 2018. I think I might have heard about it from you, that he had died in maybe like 2020 or something. And that was it. Kind of just like turned the way I listened to their music, because with a band that is more gets into some of the darker stuff, or talks about like tough things like drinking or thinking about suicide or something like that, like it definitely makes you think. And then for that to have happened to the lead singer, it brings up brings a lot of things to mind when you're listening to them, and changes just kind of how you approach it. It makes it all very real, I think, where you can just not think about it and not think about the person behind the music, and
and what they're going through.
But I always enjoy bands that have that more intimate feel, however that it comes through their music. But this band definitely has that, and I'll definitely be sticking with them for a long time, because their music has meant a lot to me, and I've quite enjoyed it.
No, I think that's great. I think you summed it up really well. So, well, we're going to kick it to the next artist. We're going to end this episode as we said this last episode, but the next artist is The National. Really excited about them as always. Brendon and me were at The National's concert in September, the end of September of last year. Yeah. And dude, it was an outdoor concert. It was electrifying. It was so good. So I'm excited to do an artist that we've been to their concert. I think this is the first artist we've done that you and me have been to their concert, right? We haven't done an artist yet.
Not for me, because I've only been to two concerts.
I've been to
yours either, like the other ones.
I'm trying to think. No, I don't think we have. So this will be our first band that we're doing that we've both been to their concert, and recently too, in the last 6 months. So I'm so ecstatic, dude. The National. I'm excited to get into the National. It is always exciting for me to do artists that I'm just like super pumped for. I'm excited for almost all of our artists, but some are a little bit harder to get into. I'm stoked for this. So, as always, thanks for listening. And the National's new album drops next week, and we will come out in about 3 weeks from now with our next episode of The National. Thanks for listening.